if he moved the documents from here to there, that's serious jeopardy?
Well, I think that raises another issue, which is, while certainly nobody is above the law, it has huge political implications for the legitimacy of our government, the legitimacy of the Department of Justice, when you are targeting the chief political rival of the President of the United States. And that, I think, is really what's unseemly here, that to prosecute, I think, a major political candidate, you have to have a higher standard. That was what James Comey said about Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton, from what's reported, did things a lot worse than anything Donald Trump is being accused of. I mean, she actually destroyed documents, okay? And she maintained them on a server, a private server, off government property. I mean, she did really bad things, and she could have been prosecuted.
Should have been.
James Comey made the decision that no reasonable prosecutor under the circumstances would bring the case. And part of that equation is at the time, they were in the middle of a presidential campaign. And if you're going to take a major presidential candidate off the table for consideration by the voters, you have to have more than a technical legal offense. And now, if the evidence is that Donald Trump turned things over to foreign governments, that would put a very different light on it. Nobody said that so far. If there was an argument that somehow foreign entities got access to these documents at Mar-a-Lago, that would put a very different patina on this. But nobody has said that so far. No leaks have said that so far. So what they're doing is they're finding a technical legal crime. And as we know, I think there was a book written, I think it was, forget who wrote it, 3 crimes a day, that every person in this country probably violates 3 statutes at some point in the course of your normal life. And that's really the problem here. You're taking a major political candidate out of contention by trying to prosecute and imprison him on what amount to technical legal crimes, not any real damage to the nation. And that's the problem.
And I'm glad you brought it up that way, talking to William Jacobson, Cornell law professor, the mind behind legalinsurrection.com. And that's just it. We're playing in the world of technicalities. While we don't believe anybody is actually above the law, we certainly don't believe in this weaponization of the institutions. And we have people out there who are desperate to tell you that the institutions must be upheld. Jen Psaki and MSNBC went on a tear about that this morning, how important these institutions are, how Joe Biden is a man who believes in the law, and clearly Donald Trump is not. The institutions must be believed and upheld. This about Trump, which I hear what you're saying. We only know Trump's side of it. We haven't been able to read the actual documentation. But based on what Trump is saying, before we get a little bit further, do you think people are blowing this out of proportion? Do they have to wait to see the everything? Or is the indictment itself enough of a, oh, holy hell, what is this again?
Well, again, I think we need to wait to render a final judgment here, but it is extremely troubling given the history. This isn't something that just happened. Okay, this has been, like you said, 7 years in the making. This has been a 7-year hunt to get Donald Trump. Given that, and given that we're in campaign season, I think it is legitimate to criticize this even before seeing in the indictment. Now, people's minds may change. If there's something really shocking in the indictment that we don't know about, I mean, it's hard to believe it wouldn't have been leaked already to the New York Times.
Right.
But unless there's something shocking there, unless there's something showing real, actual damage to the nation, unless there's something showing that secrets of the United States somehow got into the hands of our enemies, if there's nothing there beyond a technical process crime, I think people have to question, why is the federal government trying to interfere in our electoral process?
The other part is that where they're going to question the timing, because it was the House Oversight Committee, because of the pushing by Republican James Comer. They were able to get access to the FD 1023, this FBI form that basically documents the investigation that took place. A confidential source, a confidential informant, high level, who stated that, well, exactly what the whistleblower said. This was a possible bribery scheme that Burisma was giving $5 million to Hunter Biden, $5 million to Joe Biden to get things done regarding a Ukrainian prosecutor while Hunter Biden was at Burisma. The only reason Hunter was at Burisma was to be able to get access to Joe Biden. And it was about trying to move this prosecutor out who was looking into Burisma, this energy company out of Ukraine, looking into their business dealings. On the day that they get to see the documents, and damning commentary from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, damning commentary from Secretary McCarthy and others, that's when the indictment comes out. The 1023 isn't enough to say Joe Biden is guilty, but is the 1023 enough to say why hasn't there been a full-scale investigation into what the hell has happened here?
Well, yes, I think there is. I mean, again, this gets back to the double standard thing, that can you imagine if it was the Trump family doing what the Biden family, there would have been multiple prosecutions by now, multiple investigations, daily leaks to the press, some made up, some not made up. So there's no question there's a double standard. But when you know that you're a target of this malicious prosecutorial hunt, you need to be super careful. You need to be super careful. That doesn't justify it. That doesn't mean it's okay, but that is the reality that we live in. When, this was what happened during the Tea Party years, the Obama years, where the IRS was targeting Tea Party groups with regard to their, nonprofit status. You just need to be super careful. And we need to seriously examine what has happened with our federal law enforcement institutions, that they have become political tools.